My name is Ryan Davenport, and I'm one of the school counselors at Cabot High School.
And I'm Jeanette DeJesus, and I'm another school counselor at Cabot High School.
And we are coming today with a presentation on the course selection guide, and we're going to do things a little different this year, and we're going to kind of do a podcast-style informational video to kind of explain and to go through the changes and to help walk the parents of Cabot High School and the students through the course selection process.
All right, we're going to start out this presentation by meeting your CHS Administrators and Counselors. So we're going to start off with Mr. Hawkins, and he's our principal. We have our assistant principals, starting with Miss Whisker, and she will be last name Davis through H.I. Mr. Fossinelli will be last name H.O. through M.E. Miss Graham will be last names M.I. through S.H. Mr. Kaler will be the last names S.I. through Z. Mr. Black is our Dean of Students that handles disciplinary actions. He also works with the alphabet A through Davidson. And then we have Miss Gatewood, which is our coordinator of career technical and STEM innovation. And she is doing a lot of good things to just bring so many different opportunities to the school. So that's a big position for us. In our counseling department, we have Miss Miller. She's our lead counselor, and she handles testing accommodations. She handles all the testing. She handles a lot of the master schedule, so she's an important person to know in our department. Of course, there's me, Mr. Davenport. I'm the only male in the office, so it's not hard to get me mixed up, but I am A through Davidson are the last names that I serve. Mr. Jesus does Davis through H.I. Miss Wilson does last names H.O. through M.E. Miss Snyder does M.I. through S.H. and Miss Gibson does S.I. through Z. I will tell you that we love students. Many of us have been doing this for a long time, and we've been through a lot, and we have seen a lot, and we have so much information to share with our students. So we encourage you to develop a relationship with us, to develop a relationship with your administration, because we all want to work together to make this successful.
The next, we're going to introduce you to ACE and ACE North administrators. Michelle Evans is our lead principal at ACE. Carrie Lair and Roger Tonneson are the assistant principals at ACE and ALE. And then over on the high school campus, we have ACE North, in which Georgia Chastain is the main principal, and John Shiren is assistant principal, kind of / counselor in that building. Then we also have on here some contact information for our district level administrators for special programs. If your student has an IEP, 504 plan, Julie Ward is our director of special education, and Jennifer Jensen's the assistant. We have Erin Randolph, who is over gifted and talented, who's also over curriculum. And we have Melissa Elliott, who's over the secondary gifted and talented program, and she's actually housed at the Cabot School District, or high school.
For the second year in a row, our course selection booklet will be distributed digitally. So it's going to be able to find online. This booklet can be found online at CHS websites, the CFA website, the ACE and ACE North websites, and also the cabotschools.org.
They also have it on the app. There's a link on the app. If you go to the app and on the second page, there is a link that says CHS Counseling Center. It's down at the bottom. So you can also get to it there. Especially
if you go to the Cabot School District, you go to Find My School, you click on CHS, then over on the left-hand side, you'll see the CHS Counseling Center, and you'll see this presentation, but also you'll see the course selection guide that will be on there. Please review the course selection booklet with your student for course descriptions to kind of game plan and kind of understand what classes and what are your graduation requirements. We're going to go through all of that right now. So we're going to move on to what kind of info we find in this book.
Okay, so first, just to let you know, we offer a lot of courses at Cabot High School. We feel very blessed. But there are times that we have less than about 15 students that sign up for a specific class. So just because the class is in the course catalog doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be offered. It's going to be kind of based on how many students request it. Also keep in mind too, schedule changes, especially at the beginning of the year, are going to be made to meet graduation requirements, fix any kind of mistakes that are happening. So it's really important that we get the registration process done correctly.
We will also want to kind of talk about students and picking their classes for the NCAA guidelines. If a student is interested in playing college sports, the student and his and her parent should be aware of the NCAA guidelines and to choose the high school courses appropriately. This is very important that we probably know this about the junior year, and that you go as the parent and the student to the NCAA website and to sign up for the clearinghouse. And there's a lot of information on there, and we can also help the student with that. I know the athletic department is working on to help students with that. Make sure you're not paying for anything. There are some things that there's some scams out there that look like it's clearinghouse, and then they want you to pay like $2,000, and there's a small fee for the NCAA. But so if you feel like your child is wanting to pursue college sports, let them come talk to us so we can make sure they're in the right classes.
Absolutely. There is a slightly new rule for this next year. This is in the course catalog, that all students will be enrolled in a math class either their junior or senior year. And this applies to both SMART Core and regular core graduation. And so as that comes up, if you have any further questions on that, just talk with your counselor.
So you talked about SMART Core and core graduates. Jeanette, what is that?
There's some differences there. As of right now, every student will graduate on SMART Core requirements, and this is a state law. Basically, the differences are between the level of science and the level of math that they will take in their junior or senior year. And when we look at this, when we look at SMART Core, and that's what you're looking at on the screen right now, it means that you will have algebra, geometry, algebra 2, and a math above algebra 2. And with science, it means you'll have physical science, all 9th graders usually take that, and biology, all 10th graders usually take that, and then either chemistry or physics beyond biology and physical science. There is also a computer coding class that could count as either the 3rd science or the 4th math, and they could still graduate on SMART Core. However, those computer coding classes don't count towards NCAA.
And also remember that all students, according to the state requirements and to our school board requirements, need 22.5 credits
Absolutely.
to graduate. One common thing that I see that some parents and students ask me is they see this career focus and elective, and it's 6.5. That is just credits for elective classes. And so that doesn't necessarily have to be a career focused class. It has to be a class that's not one of the core classes.
Absolutely. So under regular core, which is the next slide, this means, and this really would apply a lot more to our students that are taking maybe the double block algebra in 9th grade, they take geometry, and they may take bridged algebra 2. They may not go beyond the algebra 2. With the sciences, they may look at environmental science or botany. They all have to take the physical science, biology regardless. So they all have to take the algebra 1, geometry regardless. But they may take botany, zoo, they may take environmental science, they may take anatomy and physiology as their 3rd science. Now, in order to be under regular core, we have to have something called the SMART Core Waiver.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the SMART Core Waiver. The SMART Core Waiver must be signed and returned to the CHS Counseling Center if you and your student have chosen to go the core curriculum route. The Arkansas Department of Education requires all students to graduate under SMART Core curriculum unless this waiver is signed, so it's very important that we make sure that is done. The choice for SMART Core versus core curriculum is usually made between that 10th and 11th grade year.
Yes.
Sometimes we do see it happen during the 12th grade year, but for the most part, this is something that we're already in discussions about. And so we suggest, we very much, most students are going to graduate on SMART Core, but we do have some students that need to go that core route for that.
And it does not affect the Arkansas Academic Scholarship. We did check that out with the Department of Higher Education.
All right, so we're going to go over some additional ADE requirements, and Jeanette and I are going to go over these. So first one that all students need to have is a digital credit. And how do they get that digital credit?
If they take health and safety in either 9th grade or even 10th through 11th and 12th grade, we offer our health and safety through an online APEX course. If they've already had their health credit, they've moved in, then our English classes cover that digital requirement.
Okay. The next requirement is the citizenship exam test that the Arkansas law requires all graduating classes to have. Tell us a little bit about that.
It's basically kind of an understanding of the government. It is a standardized test across the state, and they can take it through any of their history classes. So typically, Cabot schools do it through our American history, but if they've already had American history, they get it through one of their history classes.
Okay. And then our final one is
the thing on that test is if they just have to have a 60% on it, and if they don't get the 60%, they can retake the test as many times as needed.
That's good to know. I think that will A lot of people like to know that. Also, our next thing, and this is new. This was actually new for the graduating class of 2020 and beyond, is the Arkansas law requires the graduating classes to have a financial literacy piece. Can I explain that for us?
And so the understanding of the law was they're going to take a class for financial literacy, which would be, or personal finance is what it is, and that would be covered under financial literacy, but it's also a unit is built into economics. And prior to this year, it was just 10th through 12th grade. I do believe the pre-AP economics in 9th grade covers that requirement.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to move on to what the requirements for honor graduates.
Yeah, so honor grad. So we have a slight change. This is the start of the new honor grad requirements for 2021 and beyond. We're going to have 3 different categories. The first set is honors, which is going to be a 3.5 to 3.75. There are some additional requirements as far as courses, and we'll get to that in just a minute. We have high honors, which is 3.76 to a 4.0, and distinguished high honors, which is a GPA greater than a 4.0. Now, they also cannot have any Ds or Fs on their transcript. Any course that they take that is for improvement must be the identical course. The only exception to that is the pre-AP Algebra 1, because that's only offered in 8th grade and junior high. If you have any questions about that, specifically for your student, make sure you contact their counselor. Mm-hmm. Okay, so under honors, what you must have is an advanced level English, both 11th grade and 12th grade, which means it could be advanced English in 11th grade or AP English in 11th grade, and senior, it could be advanced English, it could be AP, or it could be freshman English. And they must have 2 of the same language, and they must be on SMART Core, which means the higher science and the higher math. Under high honors, this is at 3.76 to 4.0. They still need what they need for honors, but the additional requirement now is they must have at least 1 AP or concurrent class beyond just the advanced Englishes. And then for the distinguished high honors, it's all the original, the high advanced Englishes, it's the 2 years of a foreign language, but you must have at least 2 additional AP or concurrent classes, which you can't even get a distinguished high honors above a 4.0 without at least 1 AP class.
All right, now we're coming to pretty hot topic in the counseling department in the beginning of the semesters, and that's the dropping and changing of courses. And we understand the nature of this beast, and that some students have decided to change, maybe the career they want to go, or they're just not sure if this was the class for them. So we kind of want to go over some rules about changing and dropping classes. So in the fall semester, we have a couple different opportunities. You have 10 days to drop your course and turn in a change sheet, and you'll get your parent's signature, or you will sign it for your student. But also there's some exceptions. And so after the 10 days, you're allowed to drop from a more rigorous course to a less rigorous course that's in the same content area. Example, if a student is taking pre-AP English 10 and they feel like they need to lighten their load, or they just don't feel like that's the class for them, then they can move down to regular English.
Yes. So under the AP, pre-AP, they have their own separate form. They must get their teacher to sign it, Ms. Elliott to sign it, the counselor has to agree, parents have to agree. But after the 10 days, they have up to 22 days to jump from a more rigorous to a less rigorous and still, receive their credit. After that point, if it's beyond the 22 days, they have to wait until the first 9 weeks. Then they can change it first 9 weeks. And then if they go beyond that first 9 weeks and they go into second 9 weeks, they got to stay in it into the end of the semester. Or they can change even the first 10 days of the second semester, but that 22-day rule doesn't apply into the second semester. The other thing to keep in mind too is you can change classes after 22 days, and not receive an F, but you cannot move into a class for credit, which means if you drop a class after that 10-day mark, you have to move into like a study hall or a class that is not for credit or grade.
Now, we will say after, we're going to use this 22-day mark again, if a student does drop a course, and that is a credited course, after the 22 days, that's not an AP class or pre-AP class, they will receive an F for the semester.
On the transcript,
On
yes.
the transcript. And so this can affect eligibility for organization, clubs, and extracurricular activities like sports and other things like band. So it's something that we want to make sure that we pay attention to. I also we're going to talk a little bit about course selections. And so we have a couple rules that the counseling department has come up with. And so we want to go over that real quickly. It's kind of in our, as you can see on the screen. So choose carefully. Because you are choosing classes that you want to take that are going to enhance you, that are going to point you maybe towards a career direction. Choose wisely, because it may not be the class for you, and you don't, maybe if you change, you may not get in the class that you want. So you want to make sure you choose wisely. Consult with your counselors and consult with your teachers, because they are the ones that know you the best academically, and they are the ones that may say, I think you can be pushed a little bit more, or if you're going down this medical route, maybe you won't want to focus on pre-AP Chem and a higher math. And also always look for the prerequisites. Make sure that you've signed up for the right classes. As you can see, this is also what our course selection sheet looks like, and so we're going to go over that later in our presentation, but we just want to kind of show that. So we're going to go over all the different core areas, English, math, science, and our electives, and Mr. Jesus does a really good job of leading us down that path.
So under the English, of course, you have 4 different levels of English as far as grade levels, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. We have for 10th grade, pre-AP and regular, those are our only options. Under 11th grade, we have advanced AP and regular. And under your senior year, you have advanced AP. We have Concurrent, which is a class that they take on our campus, but they get college credit through ASU BB. And then they have regular. So you have 4 levels at 12th grade English. And so we have so many different ways and for different kids' needs. So, but what I would strongly suggest that you do is also talk to your English teacher before you start moving up or down a level, because they're going to know really what your writing level and your reading level is, and they're going to know if you're going to be able to handle that class. So make sure you talk to your English teacher. We have a few language arts electives. So we have what used to be called oral communication now is called professional communication, and that is a requirement that you have to have for the State Department. We have a class called mythology. We have journalism 1. We also have forensics, debate, newspaper, but those have to be done by teacher approval when they get to the high school.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to look at mathematics. Once again, you want to double check the SMART core and the core requirements that we see earlier in the presentation. Remember that 4 math credits are required. But also remember that new rule that we talked about earlier about that you have to either have a math class your junior or senior year, and you must have 4 credits. And then once again, it's very important that you talk to your math teacher to determine what is the best math class for them. Because once again, sometimes they know your potential and they know they can push you a little bit. And so that's something that we want to talk about. We also, in our counseling department, kind of live by this rule of we really suggest you take math for all 4 years, because your math brain is what we call it, is like a muscle, and you got to continue to work it out. So because when you get into college, math is waiting for you, and so we want to make sure you're continuing practicing and doing that.
Yes. Under science, for, again, the SMART core requirements, most 9th graders take physical science in 9th grade. Biology is typically taken in 10th grade. So if you're here 9th through 12th grade, that's typically when you take those. Then you're going to look at either chemistry or physics as your third math. And you can just really look and see what it is that you want to do to determine which one you want to do. And then there's a lot of other science classes to choose from. We have botany, zoo, we have anatomy and physiology, we have AP environmental science, we have regular environmental science. So there's a lot of other science classes you could choose from. But remember, in order to do SMART core, you have to choose chemistry or physics.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to look at our required social studies courses. You're either in 9th grade, if you've taken pre-AP, you can take civics and econ in that moment. But most 10th graders will take civics and econ with us. Most 11th graders will take American history, regular or AP. And then most seniors will take world history regular. We also offer digital. That's usually offered in the morning, where they don't actually have to come in all the time. They are required to show up at certain dates, but it's kind of like an online course. And then we also offer AP. Now, if you've transferred into our district, some districts do it differently, and so we sometimes have to shuffle that around. Like I said, economics is typically taken in the 10th grade, and that will actually meet our financial literacy requirements, and so that's important that we make sure on.
Then our foreign language, we offer Spanish, French, and German. In order to be moved on to a 3rd or 4th year of a specific foreign language, you have to take the pre-AP in year 2. So if you're expecting to take year 3 and year 4, and let's say you're in Spanish 1 right now, but you know you want to go to Spanish 3, Spanish 4, you need to sign up for pre-AP Spanish 2 next year. We also currently offer concurrent Spanish 1 and Spanish 2 at CHS. Again, that is a college-based class. It's at an ASU BB, and they're done each semester, and those will be offered. In order to participate in the Spanish Honor Society, you must have 3 years of Spanish, which means you need to have Spanish 1, pre-AP Spanish 2, pre-AP Spanish 3.
So we're going to talk about the fine arts classes that we offer. Now, every student has to have at least a half of credit or a half a semester of fine arts. And so a lot of students will get that through music appreciation, which is a half semester class. We have Art 1, Art 2, and then we have a lot of different art classes that you can take after that, like Studio Art 2D, Studio Art 3D, Advanced Art, where we offer AP credit in art, and we even go to the point of graphic design 1 and 2, but make sure you watch the prereqs on that. We offer band. We have a wonderful band here, and we have very good instructors in there. We offer a jazz band, choir, which is called vocal music in our course catalog, theater dance, stagecraft. Offer an AP art history class that a lot of our students like to take.
Yes. Okay, so under our health and safety, typically we do fall and spring. We do offer PE in the summer. I do believe we offer health in the summer as well. And the PE is done a little differently. That usually comes out in May, so you could look for the Cabot webpage if that's what you're interested in doing. I've get a lot of questions on that. Athletics would count as a half a credit of physical education. And typically the counselors will look at that, but it's up to the students also to make sure that they're pointing out that they want to get a PE credit for the athletics class. 1 full complete year of ROTC will give them a PE and a health credit. It doesn't count as a grade, it just has a P, but they count it as a credit. They can get up to 1 full credit of PE. You don't know how many times we have kids that want to come in and sign up for PE every semester, every year. But they can only count up 1 full credit, which would really be 1 full year of PE. And they can only count up to half a credit, only 1 half credit for personal fitness for life, which is attached to the athletics.
We're going to talk about a couple of our miscellaneous electives. We do offer service learning and teacher aid. Service learner can earn a maximum credit of 1 credit. You need 75 hours of service. And we do offer that in on campus, but also it does if you do any community service in the
Absolutely.
community. You
Yes.
work with churches or the Humane Society or I know there's a lot of different ways. So that's a way that the state would love to take care of students that do that.
And that's only offered to juniors and seniors.
Juniors and seniors. That's the question we ask all the time.
Yes.
And so just if you're a sophomore and you're listening, a future sophomore, you will not be able to be a service learner or teacher's aide. Teacher aide is a non-credited class. Gifted and talented seminar, and we call that GT 1 and 2. You have to be in pre-AP or AP English and Math to be in GT1. To be in GT2, you have to have the teacher's approval to be in that class. This is a great class to help with ACT and to get test prep, and it's a really good class. We offer the service learning for museum, kind of learning how to curate a museum. That's only offered for 1 period.
First period.
And that's first period, and that's not available for 10th graders. It's only for 11th and 12th. And then we offer a class that's taught by our GT department of test prep strategies, and that's open for 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. And this is a great class to get your student into to start prepping for the ACT. Good ACT scores determine colleges. It determines scholarship money. And so it's a good thing to start getting trained now. But one thing you have to understand, it is a no-credit class. So one thing that we tell a lot of our students is, you get what you put into it.
Absolutely.
And that's and I know students that love that course and they really use it.
So we have quite a few concurrent classes that ASUBB has opened up to us, and it is really wonderful. I have quite a few kids that have taken advantage of the newer classes. It used to be just the freshman English and the college algebra, but they opened up Spanish 1 and Spanish 2 for us, applied statistics. I've got quite a few kids signed up for that, and then the principles of biology, which is counts as a 4-hour class, which is cool. So it's the 3 hours and plus the lab. In order to get into any of these, you must have a 2.5 GPA or better. Also, for freshman English, they must have a 19 on the English, 19 on the reading. In Spanish 1 and 2, they must have a 19 on the reading. Also, make note that under Spanish 1 and 2, juniors can take that class. Very few of them actually have the 19, so that's kind of a struggle for them because most juniors come in not having taken the ACT. But if they have and they have that 19 and they're interested, let their counselors know. College algebra, they must have a 19 on the math, a 19 on the reading. Applied statistics, 19 on the math, 19 on the reading. And under principles of biology, they must have a 19 on the reading. There's also a couple of prerequisites in there. For the biology, they must have a successful completion of biology. And I believe under the Spanish, they must have an A or B in their Spanish course in high school. And then for the college algebra, they must have either a semester of Algebra 3 or a semester of pre-calculus.
All right, so as you can see that, a couple last things. Students will successfully complete this course will receive 1 hour of credit, which will count towards their Cabot High School graduate requirement. Students also will receive a 3-hour credit for most, unless the biologies were 4, through ASUBB. Very important that you, depending on where you're planning on going to college, some private schools in our state and some of our public ones may not always accept, and a lot of out of state sometimes have other rules. So we want to make sure, very important, that you're looking at that. But this is really cool. Students will be required to pay tuition to ASUBB and enroll in their classes. They're actually giving us a discount right now. So their current cost is $50 per college hour. So it's a 3-hour class, and so it's $150. Now tuition, those amounts always change with every year.
They do.
Also, I want students to hear this, and I want parents to hear this. If you have some financial situations, there are some waivers out there. There are some things that ASUBB can work with you on. So don't be afraid to ask us in the counseling department, is there any way, we've had students say, I can't afford this. And we're like, well, we actually maybe have a route. So there's not always there, but there are sometimes some ways that we can help the student with that. A representative from ASUBB will be on campus every semester to register your students for this. The college textbook may be purchased by students.
Actually, I think it must be purchased.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah,
So
they purchase that.
all right.
Okay, so non-credit activities and athletics. So we have cheerleading and dance, which require tryout. Basically, all sports kind of have to go through the coaches. So there's certain requirements that they have. So if you're interested in a sport that you're not in it, let your counselors know. They'll put you in touch with the coach, and then you can start that dialogue.
This is also important when you're planning out your schedule. Not all classes have a athletic period.
Absolutely.
And so you need to plan for that. Usually the indoor sports and like football, basketball, and volleyball and soccer, they have a period. So that's something you want to make sure that you check.
All right, we have our career technical pathways. When he mentioned the CT classes, we call this career technical classes, or CTE. That's typically career technical classes. What I love that we have here at Cabot is we have industry level, industry standard technology equipment, and that's constantly being upgraded, and so we stay up with what is going on in the real world. And we have a vast variety of classes, and the State Department has been making some major changes. It looks like we may have some big changes with agriculture right now. They're still kind of in the works. With ROTC, they just went through their inspection this last year, got an excellent rating. And then, of course, auto tech, broadcasting, they're using industry level technology, and they're really getting some good experience in there. So go through those career technical classes through the course catalog with your student, read the description. There are a few changes in there. And if you have any questions about that, please be sure you make contact with your counselor.
These are just great classes that can help students really find that path.
Absolutely.
And when we say changes, it's actually changes that are good for the student.
Absolutely.
A lot more courses will be coming down throughout.
Well, and I know that they are, we have like career pathways. So like if a student is wanting to be a medical, there's a series of classes that they need to take, and they're kind of in order. But I know through talking with Ms. Gatewood, and she's given us a lot of information, that a lot of these pathways, when they're completers, they actually walk out with certificates that they can walk into a job with. If you're wanting to be a completer, and that's, the kids always push for being a completer. They want that cord when they walk across the stage. We have kind of a general understanding of that, but they really need to talk to those career tech teachers because they get the updates more regularly than we do. But there is kind of there's a kind of a summary of those in the back behind the career technical classes.
Yes. So now we're going to talk about one of the most important forms that we deal with, and you and your student, and that's going to be the Cabot High School registration form. And this week, hopefully your student will be receiving one of these registration forms. We're going to start passing those out. But this is very important. I want to go over this, that we complete all blank open areas on the registration form. It is important to leave nothing blank. If you're not sure what class is, put a class in there. We can walk the student through that when we go over the sheet with them. Fill in alternate choices. This is important that you include alternate choices for electives which may not be offered, or there may be conflicts. And we see conflicts with band, we see conflicts with sports, and so it's something very important that you give us enough choices out there. And intention, and then we want to make this very, very important, that this form will override anything that you and your student go in and you put on your HACC account. So this is the final say. And so, this is the most important because we keep it, we hold on to it. Also, it's very important that you sign the form, the student and the parent sign off on this.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And still changes can still be made even when you meet with your counselor individually. So this next slide is really the registration schedule that has been planned out for this spring. We start off on February 4th, meeting with the freshmen at CFA in a big group setting, and I think it's done through their physical science classes. So they'll come in with their physical science class. We will run over basically the same similar slide with the kids, and they will get a registration form in their hands. So 9th grade parents, February 4th, ask your student for the registration form and see if they have it. February 10th, we are meeting with the sophomores in a large group. And again, we're going to go over a presentation that's specifically for sophomores. And so 10th grade parents, ask your kid for their form on February 10th. Now, we did kind of split up a little bit. We are going to go through February 11th through the 13th. We are meeting with CFA students through their physical science classes individually. We will have their transcripts. We're going to see where they're at. We're going to see what they want to do, and we'll make sure the forms are pretty much filled out. Please make sure February 11th, 12th, or 13th that your student has a registration form with them. Ultimately, we will always have a slew of students who do not have a form, and we're last minute filling this out. So if you want your input to be reviewed with us, make sure that form is sent with them on those days. We meet with sophomores through their English classes February 18th through the 28th. We do have some makeup days in there, so if they miss that day, it's okay. We will always pull them in. We always make sure we see every kid. Then we kind of put off the juniors a little bit, and we meet with them on February 26th in a large group. HAC will open and close for each grade level at different times, and typically it's when we meet with them is when HAC closes. So right now it should be open for everyone. You can go in there and select your classes. And we meet with juniors during their English classes March 5th through the 12th. So we actually won't even see the juniors until closer to March. So juniors, parents, ask your kids for the registration form on the 26th of February.
We love kids at the CHS counseling department. This is something very important. We love helping kids get to a point of picking a career, choosing a college. We want to celebrate with them when they have their best GPA ever. We want to do so much with them. But we also have 2,300 students here, and we are attempting to meet with pretty much every one of them. So please be patient, students and parents, when you're trying to make contact with us. This is a very busy time of the year, but we're also very passionate, and we really want to make sure we give each student everything that we can in the short time that we meet with them. We're going to put out a lot of information. It's called the Counselor's Corner weekly email. We send it out every week, and it has a lot of information in it, and we're looking on other ways to get information out too, but this is probably our best, most reliable source. And so check your email that you provided to the school. If you're not getting this, log into HAC and put it in the new address. It's very simple. And I want to talk about this. I'm going to go off topic for just a second, but every parent has access to HAC. HAC is a very important tool because you can see the classes of your students, but you can also see if they're attending. You can see what their grades are, and so there's nothing they can hide from you. And so there have been some times that some parents don't know they have that access, and we want to make sure if you don't know how to log in that, talk to somebody in the counseling department, and we'll make sure that you have that access. It's a very valuable tool for you and your student.
We'll be meeting with students grades 9 through 11 individually during the school day. So if you have any questions, the best way to really contact us is through our email, which is available on the website, because we'll have some time in between those classes to respond to emails. We may not always have time to return a phone call right during the school day, but if you would like to call us, you could call us at 501-843-3562, and here on the screen you have a list of our extensions. Of course, if you just call into the school and say, hey, I want to talk to Mr. Davenport, they can patch you through to him. Leave a message. I'm going to tell you how important that is. I get all times numbers that I don't recognize, and I don't know who it is, and I'm not know who I'm calling back. So please leave a message, because we do have voicemail, and that also helps us track down like how far back it is, and it kind of helps us keep up with our contacts and stuff. So email or call and leave a message.
We kind of want to finish up today with what we kind of know some common, I don't know if mistakes or misconceptions, things that we want to remind you of, and then we're probably going to also. You're like, I want to ask questions. Well, we might answer some of your questions right now, some questions that we have heard in the past. So let me ask you, Mr. Jesus, what is some common mistakes that you see during this process?
I see course numbers not being written down correctly with classes. So if your student is taking Spanish 1 in ninth grade, they need to sign up for Spanish 2 in 10th grade, and oftentimes we see that number not correct, or they don't write the right course down. They just kind of write Spanish and then they write a number down. I also see kids who will pair a semester class, which we're losing a lot of those. So this might not be as big of an issue this year as it has been in the past, but they'll have a semester course, but then they won't have anything paired with it. So when they come in, I have to kind of pull teeth trying to get them to pick another semester course to pair with it.
I think on the same lines is not filling out the form.
Exactly.
And then coming in and like, oh, I totally forgot about this. And so it's really important that we think you use the parent and
Absolutely.
should have a conversation and just make sure, ultimately it's their responsibility to show you the paper, but it's also to fill it out. And we're going to keep them accountable on that. And I also think start thinking really about these career tech classes and really read about them. Like, understand what you've signed up for, because that will eliminate a lot of wanting to drop. Asking questions and saying, or going and talking to the teacher and say, what is this class about? I think I might be interested. Any teacher is willing to talk to about their electives or, any of the classes. And it's so much better when we don't have to change schedules, because sometimes when we have to change something, it rearranges a lot of things. One thing I want to make very clear, and this is one of our policies that has been brought down from our administration, is that we do not change schedules for lunches.
Absolutely.
That is something that is very important, and I think it's obvious that if we start doing that, then that's
It's a snowball effect.
It's a snowball effect. So that is something that whatever lunch happens, it formulates it in the computer, and that's the lunch. So we do not change because of I need to be in first lunch or second lunch, and those are some things. And if you do have something and you want to talk about that's something that you need to talk to the administration about. But we won't make that very clear, because we usually run into that a lot with some students.
And I will also say, too, don't choose your classes based on what your friends are taking, because, or a boyfriend or a girlfriend, because I've seen this before, too. I'll sign up for this class because this is what my boyfriend's going to take, and the next year you're not a boyfriend anymore or a girlfriend anymore. So the other thing, too, is the great thing about the career tech classes is this gives the kids an opportunity to get in and get a taste of what those careers are going to look like. I've seen a number of kids, I'm going to go medical, take a medical class and go, oh, this is not what I want to do. And they're able to change. And so that's the beauty of it. They're not trugging along with a certain plan, and they get in there and realize they don't want to do that. So if they're thinking about a career, they need to get their feet wet with it while they're here at Cabot.
Also, one thing that we see a lot is, wanting to do pre-med, wanting to do pre-OT, a lot of medical degrees in college. We want to make sure, and one thing we encourage is make sure that you are challenging yourself with science and math, and especially with engineering.
Absolutely.
One thing that we suggest a lot, if you want to be an engineer, there's 4 years of calculus. And so you want to make sure that you're pushing yourself academically and we have a wonderful pre-AP and AP calculus teacher and program, and a lot of teachers there that do a really good job in preparing our students for the future. But I've had a few students that kind of took I don't want to say the easy way, but took the less harder classes, and then decided I want to be an engineer, and walked into calculus freshman year and was like,
I'm lost.
And so that's very important, and it actually kind of will show you what your strengths are.
And I've done this with a couple of my kids this year. Is we called the college that they were interested in and go, okay, they're trying to plan their junior, senior year. What would you encourage them to take? And we talked to advisors. I did that with UCA's pre-med program, and they were like, this is what you need to take. So talk with your counselor. Be open with it. If you don't know what you want to do, then talk with your counselor, because they can help you formulate that.
We've talked to students throughout the years that have said, I really felt like I had a plan. I really knew what I was going to do, and I never really talked to my counselor. And then things happen, and I wish I would have talked to my counselor. And so that's very important that you just have that conversation with us. Like, we're here to be that support system. We have had some questions. This is a question that comes up a lot about PE and band.
Oh, yes.
And unfortunately, the state of Arkansas states that to get PE credit, you have to have a PE certified instructor involved in that. We understand the rigors of what it takes to be in band. Unfortunately, we have to go by what the state of Arkansas
Absolutely.
says.
But for a lot of band students, sometimes we'll do the summer PE, which there's a little bit more flexibility with that. So again, if you're interested in summer PE, talk to your counselor. It will come out, usually comes out early May. The information on that, there is a fee for it. I want to say it's $75. I don't know, it may go up this year. And they can take PE over the summer. They can take health over the summer. Outside of that, the only classes they can take over the summer are classes that they have failed. Just so you know.
Yep. And so that's sometimes it can help too. Also, we also want to, if a student unfortunately has failed a class, they can actually take an APEX class, and it's a credit recovery, and it's done online, and so they're allowed to go back and recover that credit. And so those are sometimes we'll have to do that in the schedule too. And so somebody will say, well, my student failed this class, what do we do? Well, there's that option of taking the credit recovery. It's very independent, and it's kind of, go as fast as you can. But we also can kind of work the schedules around to put them back into the classroom. And some students want that. Any other commonly asked questions?
Just back on the concurrent classes, this is just something that had come up. Before you start signing up for concurrent classes, make sure that where you're going to go, the program you're going to go, that class will transfer. I've helped a lot of students this last semester to make sure classes are going to transfer. I did find out in some of the medical programs, especially like at UCA, they have a medical specific college algebra class. So you are going to want to make sure that where you're going to go, they're going to take it. So that's just one of the things to think about.
One thing, we talk about this in our financial aid meetings that we have, but one thing I just, not all students will go to college. They will go to technical schools, and they'll do some very cool stuff. And I think with our CTE programs, we are preparing students to be successful in the future. But also know, yes, the state of Arkansas does give the Arkansas a challenge, which is, it's a good chunk of money, and it's free money, and all they need is a 19 on their ACT.
And there's no GPA requirement.
There's no GPA requirement. They have to be successful in college to continue.
Yes.
But something that's really cool that I want parents to understand, there's something right now called the Arkansas Future Grant, and that is for students that want to get certified in STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, math, or high demand regional things. Like right now in our area, it's welding, and there's some other, I know air conditioning repair was one, vet tech, and I have students that are getting these programs, and it's not college, it's a certification program. The state is paying for it. They just have to live in the state for 3 years and follow some protocol. But there are a lot of options for students that don't want to go to college, that are still being trained in technical schools, and we know all this, and we're finding stuff out every week and every month, and about ROTC programs that schools offer, down to all these different technical programs and scholarships. So let us be the resource. Let us pour into you as the parent. We can answer questions.
Absolutely.
We love, I know Mr. Jesus and I love to talk about a lot of things, as you can tell in this podcast.
Yep.
But we are a very valuable resource, and we love what we do.
Absolutely.
And we care so much about your child. Like I said earlier, we want them to be successful academically. We want them to be successful socially, and we want them to absolutely be successful in life.
Absolutely.
And
So are we tying this up?
we're tying this up. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Nope. Like I said, if you have any questions or concerns, contact your counselor. You can schedule a meeting. They sometimes can even answer your questions over the phone. You can answer it through an email. Do not hesitate to reach out to us. We want you to.
We thank you for giving us this time on our first edition of the Cabot High School Counseling Podcast. We thank you for being involved in your child's education. Have a good day.
Thank you.